Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education by Kate Colbert and Joe Salustio with contributions by Elvin Freites is now available for pre-order on Amazon. Get your Kindle edition or your softbound book. It's going to be
amazing.
Advanced 360 Education is a data-focused digital marketing company with proven positive outcomes for educational institutions. To learn more, visit a360education.com or call Anthony Espinoza at 310-704-5369. That's Advanced 360 Education. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Salustio, deep into the finishing process here of the commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education, the book that I'm writing with my co-author, Kate Colbert, plug. If you haven't gotten your copy yet, you can do so on Amazon or anywhere that you have a internet browser that you can go to Amazon and just look it up. It's really not that hard. I urge you to take a peek at buying it. Why? Well, we're profiling 100 plus college and university presidents and the things they had to say about higher ed and its future. I don't know anywhere else you can get that much information all at the same time. My brain's about to explode. It literally is in information overload. And then one of the most interesting parts about writing this book is you go back and you go, oh my God, I can't believe I forgot that this person said this. It was like this unbelievable insight. So we're bringing these insights back out into the book, and there's going to be like quotable sections and call outs, and we're going to make it like an interactive book where you go, oh yeah, I really like what this person said. I'm going to mark this page, maybe even take a picture and push it on a social media. We all make mistakes here at the EdUp Experience. One person who I know makes a lot of mistakes is my guest co-host. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. You've heard him before. He's Dr. EJS, aka Dr. Eric James Stevens, and he is the founder of Educators.network.
Stamp your feet on the ground now.
Eric, what's going on?
I love that entrance.
I got new stuff.
No, that was good. That was good. It's been great, man. I'm excited to be here for another conversation. Thank you for having me back.
By the way, you can't see Eric and his on-camera personality here, but you can see a little mug there in the background. It says EdUp, and if you are one of the people that like to come back after you've been a guest and co-host with me here on the EdUp Experience, which of course I always say this is a crowdsourced podcast because I've had so many co-hosts now. After 2 episodes, you get your very own EdUp mug that you get to throw in the trash or put pencils in or drink coffee out of, like I do with my EdUp mug here at Lindenwood University as I have it on my desk. So Eric, we always appreciate you coming back. You always bring great insights. Boy, the last time we spoke, we were talking to that gentleman from Harvard, which was one of the more interesting conversations you and I have had on this podcast. I think he felt that way too after talking to us. He was like, "What the hell did I talk to these 2 guys?"
No, that was a fun conversation. A lot of insights there, for real.
Yeah, you could say that again. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm really excited about our guest today, coming from one of the most innovative universities in the country, in my opinion, and one that continues to grow. And he's here to talk about all the things that are happening. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen.
Come on, put your hands up in the air.
For Dr. Vernon C. Smith. He's provost at American Public University System. What's going on, Vernon? How are you?
Hey, so good to join you, Joe and Eric. Great, excited about the conversation. Love the energy level, and that's one of the reasons that I listen to the EdUp podcast.
Well, we love you.
The energy level. It's something, if you want to get driving down the road and not be bored, here's something you should be listening to.
Oh, that applause button is going to go off like 100 times in this episode after that, Vernon. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Tell us what's going on at American Public University System. For those that have never listened before, which I can't imagine who the hell you are at this point, but if you haven't, where is APUS, the American Public University System, located? I know you have a couple of units within it. Kind of describe the infrastructure of APUS and your role in that infrastructure.
Absolutely. So American Public University System has been around since 1991. Originally, we were American Military University, and then as we grew and went out and expanded, we became also American Public University. And we are the largest provider of education to the U.S. military, for one, but also to, we're hired for veterans, which are a very important part of this. But more than that, with American Public University, it's also the service-minded, right? So we like to say, we educate those who serve, and that is our mission. What makes us unique is really that we are not only, a pioneer for accessibility and affordability, but we're one of those places right now where I tell this to every student. I've got 3 kids going to college, right? So you got to tell them, avoid debt at all costs. And so when you have a great model that's able to avoid debt and able to get a really high quality education, and that's what you want, reduce that debt, have a good access for you so you can get to it, and then have really high quality. So as provost, my job is integrity and quality, of making sure that we're offering the best, programs that are all having the best outcomes. And what's the most important outcome that we have when this is all said and done? That you have something that not only teaches you to learn how to learn, but that prepares you not for your first job, not for your second job, but for your 5th or 6th or 7th or 8th job in the future, that you have those skill sets that you need to be relevant and be, just awesome in the workplace. And
I love that. I love that. And that what you said about service, right? You're serving the military, you're serving the public. Service is a really important component of higher education that sometimes I feel like is lost, right? And of course, I'm writing this book, and we're writing a lot about service, and the expectations of service that students have change with technology, right? When you go to Amazon and you find out that Amazon has something and you want to buy it, and Amazon tells you it's going to take 2 weeks to get there, which usually is not common, you'll go somewhere else and buy it. And if you go and you want to buy a product, you expect that product to be priced well, of inflation aside. So so expectations to change, and students vote with their feet very, very quickly now. It's not like there's a ton of brand loyalty these days as much as there has been in the past, because I think the consumer knows they can move on quickly. Schools like APUS deliver service at a high quality, but in a way that meets the student. Can you talk about that? Because I know that is one of the differentiators of what you guys do.
Over 86,000 students are active right now. It varies more or less. One of the things that we have available is our courses start every month, right? They're usually 8 weeks in length, which is really good for busy military or busy working adults and professionals that need to be able to do that. And, as we do that service, one of those things, are we available? Can you do this? What's it going to be like? One of the things that I like to talk about is, textbook costs. So way back when, and this is about 2004, we actually decided as a university that we were going to provide all the course materials, the textbooks, for students in our university at the undergraduate level, at least. And now we're moving all the way to even aspects of the graduate level. So, that's a huge cost. But it's one of those things that's differentiator, right? So College Board, what do they say? What, $1,200 to $1,500? That's old data. I think it's probably much more than that right now. My daughter just at another university just purchased a textbook that was $545, right, for that one particular science class. But those are included. So in that, sticker price, because our sticker price, for a credit hour at the undergraduate level is $285. So that's less than most state institutions. And why do we do that? Because we've been following our mission of affordability, right? So you got good tuition price, then you have the textbook that we added. And why do we add the textbooks in there? Because we want to make sure that you're able to get going and start learning. If you have an 8-week class, you need your materials right away, right? So we need to make sure those are included if it's an 8-week course. 60% of students in higher ed don't have their textbooks the first week of class. Why? Because they're expensive. You're strapped, right?
It's insane. I mean, that stat I've heard it a million times, and it's so insane because it is like every reason for a student to quit. When you get behind right away, you're gone,
It truly is a student success issue, right? So making sure that they have those in hand, and that's been our philosophy at American Public University, has been always to think about the student first, get those tools in their hands, right? We're gonna gear up, right, to get those things that they have it, and then we're gonna give them the support that they need through great faculty and then relevant curriculum that's gonna mean something that they can use on the job tomorrow. One of the things I love about our faculty is they're really scholar practitioners. A lot of them are right in the field, right? They do have advanced degrees, don't get me wrong, but a lot of them just they dealt with the problem, yesterday or this morning. And it really creates a great difference for students when they're saying, okay, you want to talk about cybersecurity? Do you want to talk about intel? Do you want to talk about counterterrorism? Well, they can't give details, but they can certainly talk about that. Or, here's what happened in my business case, or here's what happened in my organization today. Those are all the things that really make a difference for the students learning.
I love what you just said, because when you said great faculty and relevant curriculum and relevant education, my co-host Eric James Stevens just did a backflip. I know you can't see it, but he did one on camera. Eric, over to you.
No, I love this concept that we're talking about like we want to drive student success, and recognizing that one of the things that is making your institution unique is that your professors have that I did this yesterday experience. This is something that I'm finding out as a practicing professor who has left and now gotten into data and product. That they're like, I can operate at such a better level now that I'm in practice. And I wish I had these things to teach to my students in the past. And so how would you recommend that other institutions start replicating that? If they have that, do they have that ability, or how would they even encourage their professors to go and hey, go get some actual experience with the things that we're trying to teach our students about?
So that is a great question, and so I think part of it is both organizational and then professional. So we expect professors to stay current in what they're doing, right? And that's why you can't just it's not just teaching, it's about teaching, it's about research and scholarship and service, right? And so, going out and serving the community can actually bring great information back to the classroom. When they're able to do that, that's super important. Same with research, right? When you're doing scholarship and things like that. But, structurally within the organization, let me go there and go back to the professors. In the organization, we have what we call industry advisory councils, where we take our programs and invite experts from those councils, from those business and industry sectors. We have a space studies program. It's one of the coolest things I can tell you, where we offer space. You want to learn telemetry? You want to get ready to, that future career in the $13 trillion industry of commercial and military space, you can get there. But what we want to do is make sure that you're able to take that information and bring it back. So what we do is we go and we have industry advisory councils for our programs to bring the experts in and talk to them and actually listen. You have to listen all the time. And the more technical the area, the more often that you should be listening to the industry, because they're going to tell you what you need, right? We're trying to help those employers make that context to say, hey, here's what we need. Here's what's going to be successful. Yes, we need you to prepare them to be good thinkers, critical thinkers, problem solvers, work in diverse teams, have good oral and written communication. But in the meantime, if you could find and help them shape this skill set for us in your curriculum and build that in, that would be awesome. More than that, if we could do another thing, is if we can have that relationship. So, okay, we've got 4 or 5 students here that are right at this point in the program. Do you think you might have an opportunity, and especially post-COVID, right? We can actually do things virtually. We're online, right? Could we maybe have an internship or a practicum that you could do that way? I mean, that's the type of connectivity, I'd say organizationally, that we need to be doing in higher ed, is to make sure you have industry advisory committees. You're talking to folks, you're building the industry and business and government relationships with that. On the other side, it's going back to that faculty member. Good institutions have strong professional development plans for faculty. It's not just let me come in and observe you. What were your classroom observations? Did you like it? It's not like a popularity contest with Meet Your Professor, right? It's more than that. It has, rate my professor. It's what it has to be more is, what is your professional development plan? How are you staying relevant in business, in your industry, in your discipline, and how is that making a difference here? And what I find is, faculty that are professionals, they'll do that. They'll say, this is cool. Oh, by the way, I learned something over here that I didn't think was related at all, but man, we'll pull it over here and we'll incorporate it in the classroom. One of those, I think, years ago was I had an English professor who was into manga, right? And said, I think I want to approach teaching English 101 as doing a Japanese manga and how we could do visual literacy and pull that together. And what a great class. That's how you create innovation. That's how you create innovation.
I love that topic. Person as someone who was an English 101 professor, right? And because like no no that's a whole thing right there. But no, I love what you're saying though about this idea of an industry advisory board. And having gone through a lot of different English programs and departments now across the country from my academic background, like I have seen classes where they make that decision to teach visual communication through X medium, right? And every day that they do that, they're not teaching students how to write sentences, which is the purpose of the course, right? And so I'm really fascinated. Like, I wonder what it would be like if the English department where I had worked had an industry advisory board. And I'm wondering, like, what does that look, that relate? You talked about how it works well with the technical side of things, which works really well with data and tools and things like that. What about those? What does an industry advisory board look like for an organization or a department that produces those soft skills?
So I think it's ripe for it.
Ripe is a good word.
General education areas that say, well, that's good foundational knowledge, but hey, why not make it foundational and relevant, right? And how does it integrate with other things that they need to know? For example, how does English, I'm going to talk an intersection here between English and cybersecurity, right? How do you incorporate the needs to have greater awareness, greater literacy in cybersecurity, understanding rhetoric around fake news, right? Around all the other things that the legitimacy of sources and other things. How can you incorporate that, which is a level of information literacy and cybersecurity literacy, cyber literacy, with English? That I think becomes important. So, I just think that's a ripe area. And it's also, look at the higher level of higher education, the criticisms that are out there. Well, you don't need a degree anymore because it's not really relevant. It's, where's the value of the degree? But when you make it relevant and there's application every day, students will see the value of that degree. I mean, the debate is over about that. If you look at the Fed did all the research on that and said, look, if you're a high school graduate versus a college graduate, you're going to make $1 million more in your lifetime. No doubt about that, right? For this, but can we make it a better experience? What Joe was saying, right? Can we make it a much better experience? The more relevant it is to the students, the more it's going to resonate. And frankly, it's going to be value to their lives and the lives of their future opportunities.
It's one of the things that is really, you mentioned it too. It's like, what is the value of a college degree? This comes up all the time. We've talked to people, all backgrounds, and everybody has their own opinion. And of course, if you're from ed tech, you're from business and industry, you're inside higher ed. I feel like the military is a really interesting group of folks to follow, right? Here they have their benefits. They have their military benefits that they can use on education. I don't feel like anybody goes to get a degree just because they need to fill their time. Right? So here you have a military a professional, man or woman, service member, whether they're active or veteran, and they're like, okay, you know what? I've got these benefits from the U.S. government they've given me. I better use it and go spend 4 years or 2 years or 3 years getting this college degree, because if I don't use it, I'm going to lose it. They don't, right? There's still active participation from the U.S. military to get education and transition into the workforce. The argument on the other side of that, Vernon, is that, well, the workforce is stacked, where the HR managers say they want a degree and they could easily hire somebody without. But military members, find value in it because they know it's going to get them ahead to get a job. There is still something to that, right? To watch our men and women in the U.S. military and see what they value. Oh,
absolutely. And they value the education. It's not about training, right, alone. It's about education. It's about formation, right? It's about understanding and be able to do that. Students don't go through a degree just to check the box or do something else. You have to put your heart and soul into a lot of things, and they earn it, right? It's not easy. But one of the best things about our military students, right, that are service members that are a part of this, they bring a discipline they bring a urgency, and they bring an intensity in some ways to what they're learning, because they want to move and they want to see results of where that is. And their degree is a part of that pathway for them to build their future and build a better future for not only for themselves, but education. We can't say this in every industry. We transform people's lives. And when it transforms that person, when they're going through their transformation themselves, they know it's not only transforming them, they know it's transforming their family, their community, and others. There's nothing better. I love the name of your book, right? Commencement, right? Because that is the payoff. When I have students walk across the stage, right? And they have their sometimes in full military regalia, right? Sometimes, with the sashes showing vet or what our branch of the service they're in, but that they have a transformational experience, and then they can come back. Around 29% of our students actually come back for a second degree.
Fantastic.
And that says, I think, a lot about what is there. With that, there's also a community that goes in there. So we've got over 123,000 alum that have gone through this. So when you're part of, and every institution should be doing this, right? As you get through, you should be able to tap into that network of others that have been through that experience and do that. And I think especially active duty military and veterans spouses are the best in the world. But they build a community, and they work and they help, and no one gets left behind. And I think that's one of the powers of building the community and then building that relevancy as you go through the degree.
I want to double down on that point before I pass it to you, Eric. The men and women in the military have sacrificed something. They've sacrificed something, time, that family. They've lost something to give it to us, right? They've done something to give it to us. When they finish, or when they can, even if they're active, they go and choose to get some experience back that they did sacrifice. And one of those choices that they make is education. And I bring this up because this comes up all the time in this podcast. And I was at a birthday party for my kids, and last week, and we were around a bunch of people who've migrated to the country, right? All these international folks who now live here from Lebanon and Colombia and whatever. And they're all massively educated. And I was asking questions like, what made you get your doctorate? Why'd you go to school in the U.S.? Even though you were already a doctor in Lebanon or already a doctor in Colombia, you did it again here because they value education so highly. They made sacrifices in their lives or grew up economically disadvantaged, and education is their key in their minds to a better future, no matter where it is. And you take those two groups of folks, our military and people who come from international backgrounds, you look at their value of higher ed. What are we missing, Vernon? What's missing for us in the U.S. right now? Or is it just there's diminishing returns and the cost has escaped value in many instances?
Well, I think your latter point is there's something value to that, right? So we know that tuition has gone before, at 150% of what inflation has been over the last 20 years. We know that for sure. So we do have to look at things, and I think students are starting to get wise to this and asking, am I paying for my education, or am I paying for the water feature on my campus, right? What are the essential things that I need that are part of that? And so I think, avoiding debt, we don't want to straddle people with debt. Even though if you're going to get loan forgiveness, still it's not a good idea to get in debt ever. And I have lots of thoughts about that. But going back to the other part of looking at, is this valuable? Yes, it is. And why did you do this? What are we missing in the United States around this? I think what we're missing is something that we've let the rhetoric in the public go on with anecdotal things, because if we actually use the real data and show what the impact is, what an education does for a person. I'm a first generation college student. Yes, I went and got my PhD, but I'm the first one in my family. It has transformed the economic and social and other aspects, creating a future that was not possible beforehand. That's the things that we talk about when we talk about education. And I think some ways, Joe, we may have lost sight of that, and we need to come back to it. We need to come back to it. We're not just going out to make money a job, which we want people to do. but we're also actually, like you talk about these other folks, they're educated because they're an educated person and they're able to contribute to society. They're able to contribute. The human capital is better. We're going to get better innovation, better business ideas, better things that are coming out in the future. We're going to reinvent and create and problem solve in ways that are never known. And that just builds the foundation for that. And I don't ever want us to lose sight of what that does for us as a country, as a world, frankly, as a world.
Advanced 360 Education is a data-focused digital marketing company with proven positive outcomes for educational institutions. Advanced 360 Education does not simply rely on instinct to make assumptions about audiences or key data points. Rather, through data intelligence, client strategies take on a higher level of effectiveness. To learn more, visit a360education.com or call Anthony Espinoza at 310-704-5369. That's 310-704-5369. That's Anthony Espinoza at Advanced 360 Education.
I think that the power of education is it's redundant, but it is powerful, and it's compelling. And I think that I love what you said, where we need to start avoiding the anecdotal and start really focusing on what is the data, what are the data saying, and I get to that point. Here's an anecdote, right? I was last year, I was at this conference. It was an invite only of 50 university presidents and provosts were the audience, right? And the conversation that I was having and that I was able to observe happen was fascinating, because it came down to really two things. One, the problem that universities have is that they need to be doing more with less. They just don't have as much, fewer people, and they need to be doing more and offering more types of service. I love the expansion of student success that I've been seeing over the past 6 months. The second, the not really solution, but the thought is that our answer to problem one is in our data. It was fascinating to me to watch how hesitant university presidents are to use their data out of fear of privacy concerns for students and things and so here's the question that I have.
What?
Right. They're the topic that they were debating was, can we use a student's library card swipe? You have to go into the library, you swipe your card. That's something that can be counted. They see the data. The more that students swipe their card to the library, the better they're going to do in the school. And the topic was, can we use that piece of data to make a decision? And it was, no, we can't, because it's an invasion of privacy. Here's my question. How would you guide other university presidents to make ethical decisions about their data so that they're actually using their data effectively and ethically?
So let me give you an example. I worked for Rio Salado College in the Maricopa system, a community college for 21 years. And there when we first went online, we built a data model around this. And in this data model, I'm going to get to the library here in a second, but in the data model, and basically we ran a Bayesian type of analysis, right? And what we did is multiple regressions. Anyway, to get through this, we understood that there were some basic buckets of behavior that if we knew about that, we could predict with a 70% accuracy whether that student would have a C or better in the class. Now, I wasn't so interested in getting the data. I'm interested in the interventions, which we'll get to, right? I'm interested in the intervention that I can do once I have that data. So what were those areas that were important, right? Login behavior. Do you show up for class, right? That happens in person. This next one, are you engaged in the things? Are you going through the syllabus? Are you attending class and are you engaged in the discussions as they go on? And the last one is sort of pace. Are you turning your stuff in on time? Are you,
yes.
How are you doing it compared to everyone else, right? And those buckets, basically, you could do this. I mean, one of them, the data that I pulled back there, was show that you had a 21% more likelihood of getting a C or better if you just logged in before the first day of class, right?
Wow.
So that's personal data. Oh, you're talking about me logging in. I think students, and I think there's a lot of fear, and that would be, sort of my reaction. You start bringing data, you start bringing massive data and big data. There's a lot of fear, right? And then of course you see the other things that are just out there. Well, we can't be doing that. We'll be creating self-fulfilling prophecies for students. No one worries about that on Amazon, right? When you go in, hey, people like you did this. Well, what if people like you, we noticed that we could help you because you haven't gone to the library. So is there another place where you're studying, right? So that's where the intervention comes in. I'm for transparency. I think students are saying, hey, you have to be transparent about it, but sign me up. If you want to use my data where I go to the cafeteria, right? When I go to the student union, when I'm in the library, other things, like, if you want to use that, because that's going to help me get a better outcome and a better grade and a better success in graduation. I think students be able, but we have to be transparent. So this all the time, we can't do this, right? We can't do this. That just assumes that students don't want help. And that drives me crazy. Students are more transparent. They live in a data-rich world right now where they know all their behaviors are being tracked. They know that's where that is, right? So ask the students, one of the cardinal rules of higher ed that we forget, ask the student, right? And then, let's not assume that we're, do no harm, but you ask the student and get their permission. These are just fear barriers. They're fear, walls of fear that are thrown up. I mean, people usually, they wrap themselves in two things in higher ed where they don't want to change, right? One is, that's not quality. I'm wrapping myself in the sacred cloak of quality. Or the other one is, that's dangerous. That's not good. That's violating someone's, and they wrap themselves in, we got to get over those fears and start looking what it really is. And data is a great way to do it.
That's a great point about the fears. I just want to say that is the EdUp moment of this episode. Fears about quality, fears about, the danger of change. I mean, those are legitimate deals. Go ahead, Eric. Sorry.
No, I just that's okay.
Breaking your brain. He's breaking your brain.
My brain is just broken a little bit there.
Well, let me jump in because I feel like I want to do this real fast because I feel like I got the right audience. So, ladies and gentlemen, there's another episode of Higher Ed Word Association with your guests today, or your participants today, Eric James Stevens, Vernon Smith, Doctor here. I'm going to give you a 1 or 2 word phrase about higher education. You're going to tell me what this means to you. Take it in whatever direction you want. Feel free to elaborate a little bit, or else it gets really boring on the one-word responses. Eric, I'm going to start with you so you can muck it up before I go over to Dr. Vernon Smith. Here we go. Eric, you ready for this?
Yeah.
This softball for you, Eric James Stevens. Predictive analytics.
Absolutely necessary to what is going to be happening. This, that was actually the word that is going to trigger what I was going to say before, right? Like to what we were talking about what students are now expecting, right? And how technology has changed how students consume data and what their expectations are, consume information and how they expect to learn it. They know that their data is being collected. And at some point, the larger student population is going to start asking, why are you not using our data to help us? I think that expectation is going to flip. And I think that once we understand the power of predictive analysis and predictive modeling, when used intentionally, there's can be a lot of really amazing things that can happen.
Dr. Vernon C. Smith, your predictive analytics as well.
So predictive analytics. So let me just go off of what Eric said. You notice these things lately, people do their blood sugar monitoring, and they'll put a thing, and it's part of the quantitative self, right? They want to get their data. I agree completely. Predictive analytics can be a very powerful tool for student success. But when does it become really powerful? When you can have an intervention that faculty know how to do, that's individualized for that student, that they're there, and that the student is also aware of that. I love this notion that students would expect that. Why wouldn't you tell me? Why wouldn't you tell me if I was heading down and I got a nosedive and I'm about to crash? Why wouldn't you tell me? Don't we have a responsibility there to do this? Because again, they know we're collecting the data. Predictive analytics for I'd say any serious institution has to be looking at how are you using predictive analytics to work with your enrollment and your retention, your enrollment processes from the very beginning, how you onboarding students, how are you using that, how, knowing the students are getting the information they need and what's working. But I think it's most important, the largest part of the student experience is in the classroom. How are we using analytics to be able to understand and make early interventions that are meaningful for that student and personalized, so that we can help the student be on track for that. And then if we go later on in the life cycle, as they go to alumni and other things, like how are we using those analytics to be able to connect and build community so that students can also know, hey, it's time for me to come back and refresh and renew my understanding. So I love predictive big data, machine learning, AI, it's all coming even faster than we think, but it's not that the capability is there. The issue right now is the fear of how to implement it. And we need some good models of how predictive analytics are really making a difference in students' lives.
By the way, just for the record, I did hold up my arm, point to my watch, not to keep you both on time, but to just say the iWatch is all about predictive analytics, isn't it not? It's
absolutely.
Like, Joe, last Tuesday, you walked way more steps than you did today. Get off your behind and start moving around. And it's like, what? Who's watching me over here? You know what I mean? But it is designed all about predictive analytics.
Absolutely. So, here you are, here's where you are. That's what it is, IDEO, I think, created the "you are here" thing on the map, right?
Yeah.
That's what students are dying for, right?
Absolutely.
You are here. And where then I can make decisions. I'm an agent. I can make decisions and go from there. Just help me know where I am.
All right. We got time for one more. Here we go. Dr. Vernon C. Smith, retention and persistence.
So retention is what institutions do. Persistence is what students do. Students are the persisters. The outcome of that is the retention by the institution. And what is the biggest factor in this that we need to start looking at? And I've written about this. We need to start looking at the student's intent. Because sometimes we think that they're going to persist along for our goal, the institution's goal. But if we actually listen to the student, one of the cardinal rules of higher ed, listen to the student, what is their goal? What is their outcome? And if they're persisting towards that, that's what we want to do. But that's time for intervention, to be able to talk to them. Hey, do you remember your goal that you wanted to do this? We can do this. So again, we retain students, institutions retain students, but students are the persisters, and we need to be very clear about that. It takes student capability, motivation, and clarity. And again, when they know where they are, it's easier for them to persist.
Before I go to you, Eric, with the final, and you don't get the same one this time, I would like to say that is one of the best answers I've heard about retention and persistence, because I feel like in higher ed, we too often group those together. It's like, you know what, let's get the back door closed. Retention and persistence, we've got to improve it. We've got to get it. We've got to go. And I'm going in my head, totally different things have to be separated. It's like, if you're not doing retention, it's not both, it's an either or. If you're not doing this, then you're not going to get that. And so how do you design systems around the one that you can control, which is retention? And to your point, I think they have to be separated to be really good at both. You have to separate what makes them individual, right? I always say retention is what we do to keep you in school. Persistence is the stuff we have to help you with between those terms. Let's help you remember what gets you to remember that you should start your class next week. What are we forgetting to tell you there, right? There's a big difference between those things.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And so looking at that changes the focus of where you put your efforts, where you put your energy, where you put your resources. We can talk about this, where are you putting your resources as an institution? And with the greater need for retention and persistence in the future, where are you going to put your resources?
Mm-hmm. Totally. All right, Eric, your last one, and Vernon, you can just you can go on the back of this. You can piggyback off of it.
Okay.
Academic innovation, Eric James Stevens.
I don't want to say oxymoron, as I'm tempted to, but I think that can be a place of beauty. I think that there is so much innovation that happens in academia. As someone who studied rhetoric and persuasion and audience, I don't think that there's enough of a connection or effort on the part of academic innovation to connect to other people who would also find it innovative. A lot of academic stuff is very focused on its own circle. And I think that it could do a whole lot more. I'm really, really excited about the recent decision that all public research has to be made available for free. I mean, that is amazing. I wish I was still doing research so I could like do that. So yeah, I think that's academic innovation for me needs room for improvement. But
Vernon,
I mean,
I'm sure you
there's
have
so much
nothing to
beauty
say.
there.
Vernon, I'm sure you have nothing to say about this.
No. But to tell you the truth, so if we look at it, you can get a frame for academia, right? For innovation, right? We're not going to be necessarily product, but there are services and approaches that can be done with this, right? And I like to use the iron triangle, right? Or sometimes we use that other terms for it, right? Some recently called it the rubber triangle, right? Quality, cost, and access. One innovation, going after student success, we started implementing open educational resources. So, we were paying out of pocket for all of those textbooks, right, that were given to the students for free so they could get started first. But then by going to open educational resources, we actually got a better outcome because we started using our library databases, more up-to-date things than even the publisher's texts, and able to do it at a much lower cost than it would be to do so faster, better, less expensive, right, and higher quality. And so I think we have to frame it for academia. I mean, these were all we have the greatest minds in the world in US higher education, right? I think we have to reframe the problem set so that they actually look at that. When they think of innovation, they're going to try to do Thomas Edison stuff. No, we're talking about innovation in business processes, innovation in student experience, innovation in how you transfer credit. I could go on that. We've done a lot of things to like really make it easy to bring in your transfer credit. We try to be the most transfer credit institution in the country, right? Whether it's business, industry, military, whatever it is, do that. But there are ways, again, you have to like reframe the problem. But yes, it does sometimes feel like oxymoronic to do this. But the fact is, I think if we reframe it and give it a schema, then the best minds come together to say, no, I can make it better quality, lower cost, greater access, and more democratic, frankly. Like you're talking about, Eric, about making that available and open, and we'll make the connections. The innovation will come.
I love that. I love that. I love that response.
All right, Dr. Vernon C. Smith, here he is. He gets the last bit of airtime here. He gets to answer. What did we not say about APUS? Anything that you want to bring up about the system? Anything you want to say in general? And what do you see as the future of higher education, my friend?
So American Public University System, we're actually located in, I didn't tell you this before, in Charlestown, West Virginia, right? It's the eastern panhandle of West Virginia. But, we're mighty and we're dedicated, very strong, dedicated staff, faculty that are doing this. And it's online. And we continue to innovate in the ways that we can. Post-COVID especially, there's a lot of folks trying to enter this space. And there's really important lessons to learn. And I think APUS is one of the places that, should stand, as a example of not only innovation, but of dynamism. What do I think about the future of higher education? Hey, it is interesting. So I look at my crystal ball here. Woo, right? Looking at the crystal ball.
Send me one of those too.
Yeah, we do this. We always say there's going to be more of the same. But also, as futurists tell us, the far past might be a far future might be actually closer than you think. So some of the things that we've talked about today, there needs to be greater alignment between industry, business, and academia so that we can make it more relevant, right? We need to make those connections so that competencies, learning outcomes, other things that students care about are highly aligned with the business community that's highly relevant. That is something I see coming on. And I also see this notion of when are you done with your education? When you start your education and when you finish, I see those lines blurring because of the movement of technology, of the movement of many, many things, factors that are coming in, that your job, they say an engineer's knowledge is good for 18 months, right? Maybe it's less than that these days. We have to come back and continuously dip and build habits around that. So I see that also as part of the future of education. But I do believe that there's time to there's more disruptions that we need to be thinking about. When in my early days, it was putting courses online on this thing called Netscape Navigator and the World Wide Web, right? And being able to do that, as a language teacher, as a Spanish teacher, right? Spanish in business, I didn't have the bandwidth. Now we have bandwidth. We can do video with this. So I think there's plenty of innovation. I think for higher education, we're not going to see that leap until it's soaked in a little bit more. Like post-COVID, understanding the digital transformation that has to soak in. And it's going to soak into places. Some people are going to reject it, but that soaking in is going to actually propel us to, I think, a new age of use of technology, of big data, AI that we pull together, and then truly humanizing the student in a holistic way, actually listening to the student, understanding who they are, and not trying to do a mass production approach to students. That, I think, is what I see as a more positive view of higher education going forward, and something that's actually answers that question, what's the value of education? Well, it's really valuable because it's built for me.
Well, I think that's one heck of a way to end an episode. What do you think, Eric? He's frozen. Is he frozen? I think he's frozen. That's all right. Ladies and gentlemen, are you still there, Eric? I think it was so profound he started to leave to go work on it right away, Vernon. That's how much admitted in. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, my guest co-host, he's Dr. Eric James Stevens. He's founder of educators.network. And my star, and I mean it, my star guest today, you know him, you love him, is the provost of the American Public University System.
I am, yes.
Oh, you're back. Eric, I like you jump back in.
I apologize for that blip. I'm back. Don't know what happened.
That's
Thank
right.
you for
I
having me.
outroed you anyway, so you can,
Okay, good. I'm out.
Ladies and gentlemen, my star guest, Dr. Vernon C. Smith. He's provost of American Public University System, and he is amazing. Vernon, thanks for being on the EdUp Experience today. How was it for you?
Oh, I loved it. It surpassed my expectations, which is high praise. It's great meeting you and having this conversation, and look forward to continued conversation. This is a very worthwhile podcast.
Thanks,
I
man.
tell my folks that want to know more about higher ed. I say, go check this out. Go check this out.
We'll look forward to having you on the other side of the mic, Vernon, as you help me interview other guests one of these days. Just putting the invite out there. You think about it.
Just put me on the hook right there. That's cool.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd. Effective marketing for educational institutions requires a dedicated partner that understands the complex, constantly evolving digital landscape in which colleges, universities, and career schools compete. The EdUp Experience podcast partner, Advanced 360 Education, is a data-focused digital marketing company with proven positive outcomes for educational institutions. Advanced 360 Education does not simply rely on instinct to make assumptions about audiences or key data points. Through data intelligence, client strategies take on a higher level of effectiveness, whether the goal is driving enrollment, alumni engagement, or other educational marketing campaigns. To learn more, visit a360education.com or call Anthony Espinoza at 310-704-5369. That's Anthony Espinoza, 310-704-5369, a360education.com.